So I want you to imagine that all your students are understanding the math concepts that you teach. Well, this is what happens when you use problem-based learning. But how do you actually do this? Well, in this session, I'm going to show you how to use 3 reads, grappling, and envision solve and shares to make deep understanding of mathematical concepts accessible to all your students. I'm Linda Cortez, and I want to welcome K2 teachers. I am your partner for K5 Envision Math, and this is using 3 reads and routines with Solve and Share. Problem-based learning, where students collaborate in productive struggle for deeper understanding. Okay, so in this session, we are going to focus in on, first of all, reviewing what is the 3 reads protocol and what is grappling. Then we're going to visit the Envision Math Support Padlet, and then we're going to dive into Envision Solve and Shares. And at the end, I have a special invitation for you. So first of all, here is just a summary of the 3 reads protocol. I know that the district has given you lots of support around this protocol, and it's an awesome way to start off a word problem or a complex problem. And in the old days, we used to call them story problems. And I love this comeback to the idea of the problem being a story. So in this protocol, you're going to read through the problem 3 times. The first time is just to find out, what is the story about? What is the situation? Sort of like if you were in language arts, what's the main idea of the story? And then you're going to revisit a second time with a read. And this time you're going to be looking for, what are the quantities in the situation? Of course, after you do each read, you're going to have some questions to elicit understanding and to make sure students are understanding what the problem is about. And then the third read is where you have students look for what mathematical questions you can ask about the situation. In other words, what is this problem asking us to do? All right, so what's really nice about this 3 reads protocol is it fits into this other strategy that we're going to work with, is grappling with interesting or complex problems. And you're probably very familiar with what you see right now, which is your instructional framework. And that yellow arrow is pointing to the Grapple with Interesting or Complex Problem link. When you click on that, you're going to go to a really excellent video where a teacher is modeling how to use this strategy with students. And I'm not going to show that video to you, but I pulled some snippets from it, actually just screenshots, to kind of take you through the 3 basic steps. And what I love about these steps in this process is that they work perfectly with the solve and shares in your Envision. They fit right into the 3 steps of the solve and share. So let's look at what those steps are. So first of all is you engage the students and you allow them to grapple with the problem. Notice that this is before you give any instruction. Okay, so this is at the very beginning. You present the problem to them. Now, what's great about this step is this is where you would use the 3 reads strategy to help the students understand what it's about. Then you give them a few minutes to grapple with it on their own independently. After they've done that, they're ready for the second step, which is where they discuss it in groups or with a partner. And the idea here is they're sharing what they thought about during that independent grapple time. And now they're coming up with a group solution. As they're doing that, the teacher is circulating and helping with misconceptions probing with some questions to help them take their thinking a little bit further. And when we get to the envision, solve, and share, there's some additional things that the teacher does during this step that really help students not only understand the math, but it helps them scaffold their thinking from where they are to where they need to be with the standard that you're teaching. All right, so after they've discussed it in groups, then the third phase, I want to mention this. This is important, so we're going to take time right now. You want to make sure that you give your students some discussion norms. You probably already do this, but it's really important, especially virtually, that they know how they're supposed to interact and they have some support. This elevates the quality of their discourse, and it makes sure that all students have a way to participate. So things like giving students roles. There's a leader who makes sure everyone speaks. There's a recorder. There's someone who reads the questions, someone who asks for help from the teacher if the group can't. You have whatever roles make sense for your students. Okay, and then it's nice to have these conversation starters. So if you're in your classroom, you would probably have a chart up and you would refer to these before you begin this portion of the Grapple. Doing it virtually, you're probably going to have to call these up. And what I like to do, and what I show you how to do when I work with you, is pick a couple of them to focus on each time you do an activity. And you let the students know up front. You might say something like, okay, so when I pop into your groups, I'm going to be listening to see if you are agreeing and disagreeing. And I'm going to be listening really close to see what your reasons are for why you agree or disagree. Okay, students, go, then you send them off. Doesn't have to be a big, long lesson, just a mention of what you're looking for and listening for. Okay, so when they're through working in their groups, then it comes back to the whole group and the teacher focuses in on explicit instruction that was brought up through what she observed students doing in their groups. All right, so there we've talked about the 3 reads, how it fits into the grappling and the grappling process of 3 steps. So now we're going to hop over to a Padlet that's been created for you. Say it's been, I put this Padlet up. So any questions you have about it, you can certainly ask me. So here it is. Let's close that. Okay, so this is the Padlet for you, and I think you'll see it in chat. And if you're listening to this later on, it will probably be below the video. And hearing some feedback, so I'm doing something over here that might help. Okay, don't hear it anymore, so I think we're good to go. So in this Padlet, you'll see across the top, you have this first column that looks different than the others. We'll talk about that in a sec. But then you have going across grades K through 5, and for each grade, you have unit alignments to envision. And I'm going to pop one open to show you in just a minute. Let me point out this first column is going to be where you have some resources for getting help. So, for example, the very first one is my contact information. You'll see my email. If you click on that, it'll open up your email and you can send me a message. If you want to attend my open office hours and ask questions, you just click right here every Tuesday and Thursday, 3:30 to 4:30, little famous plug there. And then down below here in blue, you'll see each video that's been put up on the Learning Channel to support you. So you can see we have them. I started doing this on January 6th, so you see that one, the one from last week, and then this one will be added down here after this is put out. So now let's go into grade 1. And here you have, it opens up, this is for Unit 4, Grade 1. And you can see you can download it as a Word document. That's really nice because then you can edit it. But I'm calling your attention to this first column. This is where you'll find your standards for this unit, and these come straight from your curriculum framework. And there's even the note up here that the ones that are highlighted in red are your essential and the yellow are fluency. So it looks like in this unit, there's no fluency standards, but there are some essential standards. And then the second column is where you find, where is this in Envision? Where would I find lessons to support me? And inside each lesson, there are tons of resources. There's digital lessons, problem-based learning, that's what we're gonna look at today. Formative assessment, just anything you can imagine is there. So we're gonna look at this standard here, which is using addition and subtraction within 20, solve word problems that involve situations of adding to, taking from, putting together, taking apart, and comparing, and here's the kicker, with unknowns in all positions. That's kind of challenging to kids because they're used to seeing it in one specific way, and now it's like all over the place. And that's why that's an algebra standard. And so we look at it in Envision and we see, oh, well, topic 3 is about addition facts to 20 using strategies. And then specifically, if we go to lesson 3.8 or 3.9, we're going to have some good meaty word problems for the kids to work with. So we're going to go to lesson 3.8. So I'm going to come over here to my Savas Realize, and I'm going to go to grade 1 and see if I remember. You see I have a lot. You don't have that many. Don't worry about it. Okay, so when I open up my grade 1, I come down here and I find topic 3. So there it is right there. And when I open that up, I have some materials up here, some resources, and then I go into my lesson. So as I scroll down, you can see your strategies are count on to add using a number line, doubles, near or doubles plus, and so on. And then we come all the way down here to lesson 3.8. And this is where we're going to look and find our solve and share. So when I open up this lesson, again, there's so many resources. Just look at this. I mean, it goes on and on. But what we're going to look at, and by the way, wait a minute, I need to go way up. Okay, so we're going to look at this first step. And as you notice, in these lessons, there's a step 1, there's a step 2, step 3, but we are focusing in this session on step 1. And by the way, if you're doing these lessons, don't get alarmed and say, I can't do all that in one time. You would probably spend 2 days on a lesson, just realistically, depending on how important it is, if it's an essential standard. This is an essential standard. All right, so I'm going to open up the solve and share. So let's pretend that you're actually getting ready to teach your class. And this is what you would have showing for the students. And you can see there's your word problem over here. They have a workspace here. And then they have these tools. We'll talk about those in just a minute, okay? So we're going to start off with our 3 reads. The first read, I'm just going to play this.
Caleb has 4 more stickers than Zoe. Zoe has 5 stickers. How many stickers does Caleb have? Use objects.
Oops. Okay, so I meant to stop that before he says use objects, because in this 3 reads, I really want the kids to just focus on the story problem. So at this point, I'm going to ask a question like, okay, so what is this problem about? Or what's the story about? I might even use that word story, or I might say, what is this situation about if I had older students? But I think with the younger kids, I would say, so what is this story about? And someone might say stickers. So I'll probe a little bit further because I know what this is leading to. And I might ask, so who has the stickers in the stories? And they'd say, Caleb and Zoe. So then I'd say, okay, we're going to read it again a second time. And this time we're listening for the quantities. the numbers. You know, they might not know, what do you mean by quantity? So you might want to use the word, we're looking for the numbers. But kids can get used to the vocabulary you use as long as you explain it as you go along. All right, so you might call on a student to read it. You might read it yourself, but you're going to repeat it a second time. And this time you're going to ask a question like, so what quantities did you notice? And someone might say 4. And then you're going to ask, well, what does that 4 represent? And they'll say, how many more stickers Caleb has? And then you'll say, well, what other quantities do you notice? And they'll say 5. Well, what does the 5 represent? You're always asking, what do they notice and what does it represent? It's very important at this stage that the students know what the quantities represent. That's why I love this 3 reads, is because traditionally, students read word problems, they look for the numbers, and if there's 2 numbers, they know, oh, it's add or subtract. But, you know, that is not very efficient, and it's certainly not very showing very deep understanding of mathematics. Okay, so then you say, okay, now we're going to read it a 3rd time, and this time we are looking for what math questions can we ask, or what is the problem asking us to do? So you read through it again, and then you say, so what do they want us to do in this problem? What is the question we need to answer? And someone says, how many stickers Caleb has? So then, going with the rest of the Grapple first step, you say, okay, so let's take a couple of minutes to work on this. And then they work on it by themselves. And when they're working either by themselves or with the group, they have these tools over here. And if you assign this portion to them, then they can submit their work to you and you can share it with the class through Envision. However, I know that a lot of you use Jamboard, and I think it would be awesome if they just took a clip and posted it on the Jamboard. That way you can see all of them sort of at once and highlight different ones you want to talk about. But anyway, so they have this drawing tool, okay? And let's say they don't like that, they can erase it. And I always kind of set the eraser up high, just so I don't have to spend so long erasing, okay? Another way to get rid of it is to hit the trash can, and then that deletes everything. But if you just want a part of it, use the eraser. Okay, so let's look what's under here. Oh, look here, 10 frame. So I might decide a 10 frame would be a good idea, but let's see what else there is. Cubes, maybe not, I could use the cubes. Base 10 blocks, probably not. Ooh, money. Well, I can't wait till the day we get to use that one. All right, but I'm going to use a 10 frame. So you just move it over and you click to release it. You want another one. So I'm going to put one for Zoe. I'm just going to put a Z there. And this one will be for, I don't know why I changed colors. You don't have to do that. Caleb. Okay. And then I'm going to use, so, you know, a student might do something like this. Okay. I'm just showing you that they have these tools available. And then let's use a different color. Oops, different color for Caleb. So, all right, students aren't going to be perfect, so I'm not either. He has 4 more. All right, and then they have a place down here to answer, so they can either write it in with the pen, or I didn't show you this. There's a text box where they can enter their answer and then move it to where they want it. The text box is always going to show up here, but then you can move it where you want it. Okay? All right. So then they come back and they discuss it with their group. And so when they're in their groups, you're probably going to use some type of breakout group with them if you're doing this virtually. And they discuss it. And then you come back for the third part of it to do the discussion and move into the explicit instruction. Now I want to show you where you have support for this as a teacher. When I click on this, I find my teacher's edition up here. And when I click on that and I open it over here, Oh, it looks big. Thank you very much. Okay, so every lesson has this first page that goes through focus, coherence, rigor. Over here on the left bottom, it shows me the resources I need. And notice it says watch, listen, and look for lesson video. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but I'm going to flip the page. And here on the right, you see that solve and share problem. And on the left, you have all this awesome support. Then notice the big blue capital letters in bold: before, during, after. And the before is whole class, the during is small group, and the after. Do you see how these 3 steps fit perfectly with the grappling stages? So in the before, it tells you what you're going to do. The only thing you're really adding to this is the part where the students work independently. But a lot of teachers, they've been doing that anyway. And I always kind of show teachers to do that as well. In blue, you have these great questions that are suggestions to ask. If you're a veteran teacher, you probably have some really good questions as well. Then the during part shows you questions that you can use to help kids when they get stuck or they maybe don't even know where to start. You have some very good questions there that you can ask them. And then, so in the during part, remember I said you're doing a little bit more than what's described in the grappling. So while students are working in groups, you should be popping in and out of the groups, circulating and looking at the student work. And you're looking for specific student work that will later on in your discussion, you'll be able to share out in order so that you can scaffold from the lower level of understanding to the greater level of understanding that's going to take you right directly into your explicit instruction. There's even this great stuff right here where it says extension. In case you have a group that finishes really quickly, you have this extension where it's an idea for what they can do while they're waiting on the others to finish. Okay, so there's one, and down here, so how do you know what kind of work to look for? We have this at the bottom, so it shows you examples of 2 students who did the problem. Lucy's work looks kind of like mine, but Darren had a misconception. So you would probably, while they're working, try to capture that and ask some questions to guide them around that. Now, there's another resource for where you can get help with knowing what work to look for. And it's back here. So remember your solve and share was right here. It's called problem-based learning, solve and share. But up above here is this really, really helpful video called Listen and Look For. Remember that was mentioned in the teacher edition to look at that? So they look like this. They're very short. This one is 2 minutes, 16 seconds. We're not going to look at the whole thing, just part of it.
The essential understanding for this lesson is objects, drawings, and equations can help you solve different types of word problems. Previously, students used subtraction to solve comparison problems in which the lesser amount was unknown. In this lesson, students use objects, drawings, and equations to solve a variety of addition problems, with a focus on comparison problems in which the greater amount is unknown.
Hey, do you notice the coherence there? They told you what they did previously and what they're going to do now.
This problem is key because students are
and this is the exact problem that's in the solve and share.
Asked to solve a comparison problem and show their thinking. Listen and look for students who do not make correct sense of the problem. Some students may read the word more and think that they need to subtract because more is a comparison word. They may make a drawing to show 5, cross off 4 to model subtraction, and write a subtraction equation to match the drawing. These students will incorrectly conclude that Caleb has 1 sticker. To help students identify their error, have them reread the problem and underline the information needed to solve the problem. Ask questions such as these to help students understand that this is an addition situation. Do you know how many stickers Caleb has? Do you know how many stickers Zoe has? Who has more stickers? How many more? How can you find the number that is 4 more than 5? Listen and look for other students who use addition to solve. They may start with a drawing to show Zoe's 5 stickers. To show how many stickers Caleb has, they draw a second group of 5 to match the 5 stickers Zoe has. Then they draw the 4 more stickers that Caleb has. Finally, they write an addition equation to match the drawing for Caleb. Caleb has 9 stickers.
Okay, so you see there, you have different examples of what kind of work to look for, okay? Now, I'm going to hop back here and go over a couple more things here. So first of all, if you're planning to do this, what are the steps you need to go through? So first of all, you're going to want to select the solve and share that matches your standard. Next, you're going to watch that listen and look for video. It's going to help you know what to expect. However, you know your students, and they always come up with different things you didn't even think about. So you need to do the math and do it more than once. Work it 2 or 3 different ways that you think your students might work it, and try to scaffold those different ways. Really think about the math that's involved. Then you're going to determine what student work you're going to look for and how you're going to scaffold it from what you've worked on and what you've seen in the video. The next thing is, how will your students share with partners or small groups? Are you going to put them in groups with partners, breakout groups, all the logistics? And then how will groups share their work? Jamboard maybe, that would be my suggestion. And then determine what good questions are you going to ask, okay? So this was a walkthrough on how to use 3 reads and grappling with Envision, Solve, and Shares. Your next step, guess what, is to reach out and contact me for support. I invite you to do so. I am so happy to work with you individually or with a group, with a PLC. I can do things like model a solve and share where you're the students and you actually experience it and see what all the steps I go through as a teacher. I can support you, help you planning for solve and shares. I can support you in a lot of ways that will help you dive into using your Envision math resources. So please contact me. There's my email. Open drop-in office hours every Tuesday and Thursday, 3:30 to 4:30. And remember that Padlet, it's down below the video. When you click on that, it'll take you to my contact info where you can just click on it and access it so easily.